All right, it is finally time to talk about Empire of Silence, Book 1 of the Sun Eater series by Christopher Ruocchio. So as you can see, there are currently 3 books and a novella that follows his little brother Crispin's POV. Book 4, I believe, is coming out next year, and then there is a Book 5 on the way as well. So definitely looking forward to that. Honestly, Empire of Silence, straight up before I even get into any of the review, this book was incredible. I loved damn near every second of it. We actually did a live stream, myself and Leanna over at Leanna's library. I'll link that up here. And we gushed about this book for damn near 2 hours. This is a fantastic sci-fi blend with fantasy, space opera. You'll hear a lot of things like this is Name of the Wind meets Dune or whatever else gets thrown upon it. I've even seen some people completely lie about the fact that this is just a ripoff of Name of the Wind. I guess first-person storytellers recounting their life makes it Name of the Wind. I've heard Name of the Wind in space. There's definitely heavy Dune vibes, Red Rising. I guess the first-person narrative you could pull from Name of the Wind, but there are a lot more Red Rising and Dune aspects to this that we talked about at length in that video. So again, that'll be linked in the description down below. But let's get into Book 1 of Sun Eater, Empire of Silence. It was not his war. The galaxy remembers him as a hero, the man who burned every last alien Cielson from the sky. They remember him as a monster, the devil who destroyed a sun, casually annihilating 4 billion human lives, even the Emperor himself, against Imperial orders. But Hadrian was not a hero. He was not a monster. He was not even a soldier. On the wrong planet, at the right time, for the best reasons. Hadrian Marlowe starts down a path that can only end in fire. He flees his father and a future as a torturer, only to be left stranded on a strange backwater world. Forced to fight as a gladiator and navigate the intrigues of a foreign planetary court, Hadrian must fight a war he did not start, for an empire he does not love, against an enemy he will never understand. And that is where we are introduced to Hadrian Marlowe, our narrator and reteller of this story. So basically when this book starts off, he is a much older Hadrian, and he is recounting what led him down this path to destroy the Cielson, to kill a sun, to destroy 4 billion human lives, and everything else that apparently happens throughout his life. Now, the reason this is interesting, and there's a lot that you can do with this, is you know where this ends, right? This is telling you, hey, I'm the bad guy. This is me. I've done all these things. Let's talk about everything else that got me there. So basically this book opens up with Hadrian sort of sitting there. Yep, that's me. I bet you're wondering how I got here. And then just rewinds the tape and just tells you everything that got him there. And honestly, I love that about this, because right off the bat, you're going to get, like, you know where this ends. You know that he is essentially, as Christopher Ruocchio sells this as, if Anakin becoming Vader was the right thing to do. Now, the way that I take that is, okay, well, if Anakin becoming Vader was the wrong thing, there's got to be a damn good reason that he does it in this. And you even see from just the dust jacket that he doesn't consider himself a soldier or a hero. He really just wanted to be a scholiast or a scholar. He is really interested in researching alien civilizations, especially the Cielson, because there's this air of mystery around them. The way that this is sort of this world that's thousands and thousands and thousands of years into the future, something like 15,000 years in the future, they've kind of gone through these ebbs and flows of technology, and they got to a point where AI became sort of self-aware and started to take over, and that AI rebellion was quashed by humanity, and then that formed the Chantry, who sort of lock down technology and don't want people to have access to things. This sounds pretty familiar, right? So this is where a lot of some of the Dune comparisons come into play, for sure. You'll notice there are shields eerily similar to Dune in this. There are certain sand planets similar to Dune in this. Honestly, this is a fantastic blend, and he doesn't hide any of these influences, and I love it because I never felt like he was ripping anything off. I feel like there's a lot of homage to Dune, Star Wars, Red Rising, a lot of things that came before this, and this was his first novel, which is just truly impressive because it's a thick book. It's a long, elaborate space opera with a lot of characters, a lot of planets. There's a whole, like, pages and pages of stuff in the back of the book, just characters, family trees, political, like, affiliations, worlds, planets, just everything. It's so well done. Tons of, alien races that are misunderstood. The Chantry is sort of like the Inquisition, where they are sort of like religious police in this world. And the basic premise of this, as is told from the beginning, is a young Hadrian is, of course, the eldest son of Alistair, who is a total bastard of a father. This gave me one of the few, like, A Song of Ice and Fire similarities that I pulled here was their relationship, father and son, is a lot like Tywin and Tyrion, where Tyrion is like, I'm a Lannister, I'm sort of entitled to certain things. Hadrian sort of feels that too. Like, he doesn't want to take over as a duke or a leader. He doesn't want to be in politics. He doesn't want to be in war, but he is the eldest son, so he kind of assumes that he will, fulfill that role. And his dad is just like, that's not even my plan for you right now. Like, your younger brother, Crispin, is better for that role because he listens to me and he's a better son, and you're going to join the Chantry. That's your path, and I need somebody on the inside in the Chantry since they're this, big religious force. So he's thinking, well beyond Hadrian's life and family, just he wants, that sort of political power. So, of course, Hadrian doesn't want this. He wants to be a scholiast. He wants to study alien civilizations. He likes learning languages. He doesn't strike you as the kind of guy that's going to blow up a planet and kill 4 billion people and exterminate an entire race of aliens. So basically, you can already tell that this is book 1 of 5. So this is going to be very much a slow burn and buildup of getting to that point. So it's not like book 1, he's Darth Vader. That's not what this is. This is really telling his early life, and it's got a couple different sections to it, which is, I could see maybe why some people feel like it's a little bit disjointed, because it does a couple of different things. You have a lot of the family dynamic and politicking up front, and then you have the gladiator section, of course, that is brilliant and does Gladiator, the movie, justice, because it's so similar, and the sort of friendships and camaraderie between him and his fellow gladiators in the Colosso is just impressive. And that's when you meet Switch, who's just an awesome side character. And then towards the end, you sort of get, the journey beyond. Like, obviously, he's not going to stay in the Colosseum forever, just like in Red Rising. They're not going to stay in, the Battle Royale forever, right? It's going to expand beyond that and go intergalactic. So first and foremost, just everything that Christopher Ruocchio has built foundationally here is truly impressive. And while there are tons and tons of similarities to things like Red Rising, I think me and Leanna talked about Red Rising half the time when talking about this book, just because we were drawing parallels everywhere. But that's super exciting, because if you enjoy Dune, this is not quite as philosophical as Dune, but it's excellent. There's a lot of similarities in certain characters and world aspects and sort of the outlook of technology in the future, and some of the writing for sure. But also Red Rising, like, if you love these two series, if you like Name of the Wind, Farseer, things like that, you're going to see a lot of similarities here that you're going to enjoy. And I love all these things, so it was perfect for me, because while I was noticing a lot of these similarities, it never felt unoriginal. Like, there was always a twist to it. And just as we're talking more and more, like, you kind of draw parallels, but this is definitely its own thing. It's smarter and better written than at least book 1 of Red Rising. This is super poetic at times, and just Ruocchio's grasp of language and just his prose is incredible. And I'm not the kind of reader that normally, like, gushes over prose. There's been exactly 3 authors that I can think of right off the top of my head that have stuck out to me in the last year of reading, where I would sit back and think, wow, like, that was gorgeously written. And that's Mark Lawrence, Robin Hobb, and Christopher Ruocchio. There are some other, I'll throw in Brian Lee Durfee in there too, because there are some lines in The Forgetting Moon and The Blackest Heart that blew me away. But for the most part, I'm not reading a lot of these, like, beautifully written texts. And this isn't even all that flowery. It's just, he just has a way with words that, I mentioned this when I was reading, I'm still reading Farseer, but in my Royal Assassin review, there's certain times when you just stop and you're just like, wow, like, you have to reread something just because it was so gorgeously written, and it just kind of hits you. The prose is impeccable, really well done. It's a joy to read it, and it doesn't slow it down either. It's not like he's just trying to impress you. He's smart with it, and much like when I reviewed the Book of the Ancestor by Mark Lawrence, he's so good about using straightforward language when it's necessary, but using more flowery text when that's necessary or required. And he blends those two styles so well, and it's just lovely to read, honestly. This book, pacing-wise, I'd say was paced wonderfully. I was constantly wanting to learn more about Hadrian and his family dynamics, his relationships with everybody as he, sort of goes through this beginning part of his life that he's retelling, whether it be at the Colosso, whether it be interactions with the Chantry or other planets. Because as the dust jacket says, he gets dumped on some planet. Like, he thinks he's going to one place, he wakes up another place, and he sort of has to live the life of just like a regular guy for a while, because he doesn't have his wealth and his power at his disposal. He can't just walk around saying he's Hadrian. So you get this entire dynamic of him seeing the other side of society, which is why it's so hard for, like, he's such a good character and he's so well-rounded. And yeah, he has some moments throughout the book where you're like, okay, like, you're getting a little crazy here. But for the most part, he's like a good person, and like, that he's going to become sort of like the villain at the end of the day. So seeing him be so good in this and have great moments and show compassion for people and sort of be a pacifist, and then knowing that like Darth Vader is beyond the door that he's going to go through, it's just crazy. And it's super interesting to see the beginnings of that and how, like, what led to that point. A lot of the character work I think is really well done. Beyond just Hadrian, there's some that you don't get a lot out of. Like, I wanted more from his father, Alistair, but like, I have a feeling that'll come back later in the story, maybe. The beginning is more focused on his family, Crispin, his mother, and they have some great moments, but they're not super fleshed out at the beginning, and then it's sort of, Hadrian's story beyond that. I'd say you definitely meet some fantastic other characters, though. Switch in the Colosso, he's sort of like not just like quippy sidekick, but he's there as sort of almost comic relief at times, but he's also got some emotional moments that are fantastic. Volca, who is I believe she's some form of a scientist. She's a little bit older. She's super smart. They have a great dynamic back and forth. There is some love interest throughout the book that is here and there. But for the most part, the characters are pretty great. And especially when you meet like other dukes and other like rulers, because the way that this works is on each planet, there isn't just like a king or an emperor. Like Hadrian's dad is sort of like a lesser noble, but he's a very, very rich lesser noble, because they control the spice. It's not the spice, but they basically control a material in the world that is very similar to the spice. Like, even though they're a lesser family, everybody kind of wants what they have. Doing parallel. It's wonderfully written. The action sequences in this are fantastic. Like, this is every bit a space opera, and that blend from sci-fi and fantasy. You don't get bogged down in techno babble, and you have a lot of free-flowing like combat and stuff like that. And honestly, there's some like really dark moments in this too, when you just deal with like racism towards some of these alien races. There's one, so like the Cielsen is the main one that you hear about. They're much more intelligent but misunderstood, and they've been around for forever, and they're super mysterious and interesting. And then you have, I want to say they're like Umlaut, or I'm forgetting the name. Umand, that's what it is. And you see this, like, this was what draws me back into Hadrian, is he sees one of these slaves being mistreated and beaten, and like, you can just see it tearing him up that like that would happen. And then he's watching one guy sort of like beat the crap out of the slave, and then his partner stops him, and he's just like, oh, good, like, faith in humanity restored. And then his partner's like, you can't kill him, like, you won't get your bonus. And he's like, oh, never mind, people suck. So there's great moments where you can just really relate to him as a character. And as you progress through the story, you're sort of, pulling the curtain back a little bit on where the story's going. But this is so much just like a buildup of everything that is Hadrian, and just sort of the beginning, the jumping off point to what will become his character. And there's just, oh man, this book is just so good. I mean, it's just got everything that clicked for me. Interesting characters, great world building, atmospheric as hell. There's a torture scene in this that, oh boy, it was intense. If you read it, you'll know. There's so many great moments. It's paced well. It's written beautifully. I'm just so excited to see where this goes from here. And also, to the Lesser Devil, that follows his younger brother. That's going to be super cool to get into. And from what I hear, Howling Dark and Demon in White are way better than Empire of Silence, and I absolutely loved Empire of Silence. So that has me incredibly excited. Definitely go out and read this book and series if you haven't started it already. Ruocchio is super active online. He's got his own YouTube channel linked down below, Sun Eater. He gives writing updates and stuff like that. He's got a Patreon, which, damn it, I missed the high tier one where he sends out signed books, but if a spot opens, I'm in there. Just definitely go support this guy. If you're a fan of sci-fi and fantasy mixes, you like space operas, interesting, well-rounded characters, this is just everything for you. If you like Farseer, if you like Red Rising, if you like Dune, I guess Name of the Wind, I haven't read it, but I know Leanna did, and she said it's nothing like it, but she likes them both. So if you're a fan of any of these things, you'll find something to like. I guarantee it. It's just so good, and I think more people should read these. So that's gonna wrap up the review. It was incredible. I can't wait to continue, and I am going to continue this as a buddy read with Leanna. So next month we are reading Howling Dark. Demon in White will come after that, and then we'll probably just throw in The Lesser Devil at some point because it's a novella. It's a little bit shorter. And then looking forward to book 4. I want to see that cover reveal because apparently we're going to see what the sea elves look like. And I have been dying to see some artwork for those. So like and subscribe. As always, do hit up Patreon if you want to support the channel financially. That's always optional, but always greatly appreciated. Definitely jump in Discord though, or leave me a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on Sun Eater. If this helped you get any interest in the series, I highly recommend it. If you've read it, let me know your thoughts on Empire of Silence and where it kind of ranks in your tiers of the 3 books that are out so far. So that's going to do it, guys. Until next time, keep reading.